Hey everyone, and welcome back to Podcast on Fifth Ave. We were off last week because Taylor was on vacation and I was dealing with car troubles. So Taylor, how was your vacation?
Great. I went to New York City, Times Square.
Heck yeah.
Days, just
I've heard of it. Nice.
How's your car?
It's all better now.
Yeah.
I hit a PA hole that sent me into a different dimension. So got my tire fixed, but it's fine. No, it's not, but it's okay. No, I don't have to worry about it anymore. But the Penguins were staying busy while we were on a quick little break. They signed Kasperi Kapanen and Danton Heinen, which was a bit of a surprise. I think we knew that Kasperi Kapanen was going to get signed. He's a 2-year deal at $3.2 million, and Danton Heinen a 1-year deal at $1 million. I feel like Kapanen, people are saying he was way overpaid, and then Danton Heinen took a very significant cut to stay with the team. So there's a lot going on here. Let's start with Kasperi Kapanen. Why that number? Like, what did he do last season that warranted that amount of money? I think that's what everybody's asking. Like,
Me
what?
too.
To keep him here? Was he worth it? Like, what did he do?
Yeah, so 3.2 for people that aren't aware, that is his average annual value from his last contract. So no pay cut, no raise, just the same. I think, his last contract, he wasn't quite living up to. I think a lot of people did expect, a pay decrease. I did. I think something here was, so he had filed for salary arbitration. He did have those rights as a restricted free agent. And they were approaching that his hearing date. I was like less than a week away, and nobody wants to go to salary arbitration. I feel like if it had gone to arbitration, he might have gotten a little less than 3.2. I don't know if what he would have, the difference would have been worth going to salary arbitration, because it's bad for both sides. Because the way salary arbitration works is, like the team and the player go in with like a contract in mind, and they argue their point, and the neutral party, the arbitrator, decides which one. So it's going to be whatever the team wants, or whatever the player wants. So, I mean, the players are obviously asking higher, the team's asking lower. When you're in these hearings, the team's whole job is to argue why the player's not worth, they have to tear him down. And I mean, like, the player in the hearing, it's just a bad thing to do for like Ron Hextall, going to the meeting, talk about why Kasperi Kapanen's awful and doesn't deserve, whatever he's asking for. So both parties want to avoid that. So typically players file for arbitration, not really expecting to go to arbitration, but to, just kind of add pressure to get something done. Teams don't want to rip their players either. And I think, there's a history of cases that actually do make it to arbitration and go through the hearing. The player's typically not around that much long after. They get the contract, but the relationship can be damaged. They typically get traded or sign elsewhere not long after. So knowing that, Kapanen filed, I don't know what he would have gotten if it would have gone to arbitration. I don't know if it would have been worth the difference, but the Heinen signing definitely balances things out and makes the Kapanen deal sting a little less, but that's definitely a whole lot more than I was expecting. I think everyone was expecting.
Yeah, it was high. It was on the higher side. But yeah, like you said, Danton Heinen, way less money. Maybe not way less, but a significant amount less. And he actually said that he felt like staying in Pittsburgh was best for him and had the best chance to keep this team together and potentially win a Stanley Cup. So that's exciting on a lot of different levels, because it provides some depth to the forward side of things, because they still do have 9 defensemen, and that he wasn't consistent all the time last year, but when he was good, he provided some scoring depth. He was quick. He was tough. Like he played a really solid game when he was on. So the fact that Hextall was able to keep him here and kind of take a pay cut which we'll get into the salary cap situation in the next segment. But like that was a big deal. And it's exciting that they were able to keep him around for another year to kind of see what his potential could be, and also just add a little bit to that bottom six.
Yeah, I mean, because you look at, so the Penguins had him on a 1-year deal last year. So he signed for $1 million 1 year. His last deal was $1.1 million 1 year. And that one was kind of like a show me like what you can do contract, because, you know, when he was in Boston, he was, you know, a big point producer, and he did have two really good years, and then he did kind of fall off in Anaheim. That's why Anaheim didn't qualify him. So the Penguins, it was like a 1 year, show me what you got. And I think he lived up to that. And he definitely could have gotten more on the open market. And, you know, he was a restricted free agent who was not qualified because he had arbitration rights too. So if, you know, he and Kapanen both would have filed, it really could have put the Penguins in a tough spot. So that's why, you know, because I had heard, you know, from his side that even though the Penguins, you know, stopped, I heard this, you know, a couple weeks ago, I had it in our Friday Insider, that, you know, they were still talking. There were numbers being like thrown out there, like in other reports, he was asking for like $3 million. And like, I don't know, I reached out and I heard like speculation, bad reporting. And he was very open to, you know, salary. That's what I heard from the beginning. And that the door was definitely still open to him to return to Pittsburgh. And I had heard that, you know, if he had been qualified and gone to arbitration, they thought he could have gotten somewhere close to $4 million in arbitration, because they do really look at, you know, past performance and mainly goals and stuff in those kind of hearings. So that's not that, you know, far off. And Heinen did get other offers. He left better contracts on the table to come back to Pittsburgh. And we heard it was because, you know, he loves the city, the team, his teammates, the chance to win, and Mike Sullivan in particular. So, yeah, that's great to see from him, because he does add some versatility to because they do have a ton of depth forwards now too. But I mean, he's definitely an upgrade over, you know, some of the depth forwards they had already signed early in free agency. So, yeah, and like I said, it balances out the Kapanen deal that I don't think we were expecting to see.
Yeah, they were both surprising in different ways, but the money on the Kapanen deal was a bit curious. Is there any chance that last season was just kind of a dud that he laid? Like, is there any upside potential that this season he could come out and prove his worth in that kind of like dollar amount?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, 3.2, but he looked great in the playoffs. I mean, it was only, you know, 7 games.
Yeah.
And he wasn't, you know, finishing, but we were seeing a lot of the, you know, one thing with him, you know, his speed is his greatest asset. And I think when he was struggling in the regular season, it was because he wasn't taking full advantage of that, and he would, you know, skate into the zone and slam on the brakes, and, you know, instead of using his speed. And I think in the playoffs we finally started to see him play the way he could. I mean, the goals weren't going in. He was, of course, you know, Shesterkin was on the other, and the guy on the Vezina, but I don't know. So I think that was encouraging. And then also 2 seasons ago when he spent more time with Malkin, they did really have good chemistry for good stretches. And now, you know, Malkin's definitely back. Maybe they get back together there and they can find that chemistry again. So I don't know. I don't think Kapanen's going to destined to be like a healthy scratch, you know, like he was a couple of games last season. I don't know if he'll live up to 3.2, but I think at the end of this past season, he showed encouraging signs that, you know, he could be an effective player next year.
Yeah, and we'll see where he ends up in the lineup. But yeah, overall, good news. Hopefully, we'll see some better outcomes for him, and then having Danton Heinen around is another good thing. When we come back, we will talk a little bit more about the salary cap situation. But let's take a quick break. We are back. So the Penguins are still in a bit of a tight salary cap debacle. It's not not great for them going into this season. So, Taylor, what are they looking at right now, and what are some options for them moving forward, if there are any at all?
Yeah. So people always ask, like, how much cap space do the Penguins have? That's not something, there's not like a one answer to that right now, just because there are so many depth, options right now. We don't know who's going to be on the final roster. There are no rosters in the summer. What you see on
Yeah.
Cap Friendly, Puckpedia, those are simply projections based on what they think the roster is going to be. So there's no like answer, like, what their cap space is right now. But
Right.
there are ways that they can get cap compliant without making another trade, but I still think another trade is coming. So I wrote a story on the site, just running down. So I looked, there are 27 different players who are under an NHL contract who could reasonably compete for a spot on the NHL roster. And so 23 is the max. So 27 of the 27 they have, that totals $86.3 million in salary cap space, including the $2 million in Jack Johnson dead cap hit. So they that, honestly, if they didn't have that, this would not
Lord
be
of mercy. God.
Jack Johnson. So they have to get under 23. You don't have to go in with 23. I mean, you don't need that many players. Typically, teams don't go in with all 23 unless you need to, because you don't want that many guys eating the press box nachos or the soft pretzel bites. They did come back that season, but back to the
soft pretzels.
27 different players, so they got to get that at least under 23. The depth options that aren't obvious. At Ford, Archibald, Paling, O'Connor, Zahorna, Kajula. That is how you say it. That's not how I was saying Kajula before, but that is.
Live and learn.
And then the depth D options: Ty Smith, P.O. Joseph, Chad Ruedel, Mark Friedman. I'm including them, even though they're on the NHL roster. But so they got to trim that down. So one of the problems the Penguins have are that there aren't many guys here who are exempt from waivers. So there are guys, you can put them on waivers and reassign them and they might clear, but as far as the guys who are exempt from waivers and can be sent down, the only two are Drew O'Connor and Ty Smith, who both are guys who probably might, of all those depth forward and defensemen, are probably at the top of the list of like who could be in the NHL. But it's like, are they going to get buried just because they're the only two guys who can safely, no risk, be sent down to Wilkes-Barre? I mean, I think Drew O'Connor's ready for a full-time NHL spot now after the way he performed in Wilkes-Barre. I mean, the reason he didn't get called up the end of last season, well, first of all, he had the collapsed lung in I want to say that was Vegas. Took him a while to get back to 100%.
Lord, yeah.
And then it was like his previous contract was an issue of they didn't have the space to call him up last year because he had performance bonuses written into his contract, and if you're using long-term IR to call up a guy, you have to account for any potential performance bonuses. And they didn't have the LTIR space to do that. So basically it was his contract, it was the lung, and then his contract prevented him from coming up next year. He did resign. He's league minimum? $750,000. So that his contract's not an issue right now, but now he's exempt from waivers and he's like the only is. So, and Ty Smith, who they got from New Jersey, he's a third-year pro. He's never played in the AHL. He's been in New Jersey full-time the last 2 years. So
dang,
he's going to get sent down just because it's the least risky option. I'd like to see both of them be options at the NHL level, but it's like, I don't know.
What can they manage financially? It's just their hands are a bit tied.
So if they send those two down, that leaves them, that cuts it down to 25 players with a combined salary cap hit of 84.6, so a little over $2 million over the ceiling. So they gotta That's like 3 players, 3 depth
Yeah.
guys. So say you send down O'Connor and Ty Smith. You have to put 3 players on waivers. And with 15 forwards and 8 defensemen, that probably means 2 forwards, 1 defenseman. The forward who Kajula, he's another guy who, he was a full-time NHLer, but he missed most of last season with an injury. He in November is when he had the season-ending injury. It was a neck thing, I believe. He needed surgery. Yeah, herniated disc in his neck is what it was. So he's someone that you could probably sneak through waivers. I don't know how many teams would be looking to claim him just because he didn't last season. And then the other one is Radim Zohorna that I would risk putting on waivers. He's 26 years old. He's not the youngest guy, and he doesn't have a ton of NHL experience. I just feel like he could probably clear.
Right.
It typically is easier to put guys on waivers this time of year because you think coming out of training camp, basically every other team already has their roster set. They know which of their guys they want to keep. They're healthy. Yeah. It's not like they're looking to fill injury holes. So it's easy to put guys like that on waivers and have them. You don't see a ton of guys getting claimed on waivers out of training camp just because the other teams don't have room either. And you look at how many teams are also in cap crunches. And so and if another team claims a guy on waivers, there's like the intent to keep them in the NHL the full year because another team can't claim him and then try to send him down too, because if they did that, then the Penguins would be able to claim him back and put him right back in the AHL. So I don't know if a team would claim like Radim Zohorna thinking he's going to be a full-time NHLer right now. So yeah, I think those two would be safe. And then on defense, this is where it's even harder because I mean, of the 3 who would, I think, maybe even be in consideration right here, like Chad Ruhwedel, Mark Friedman, and P.O. Joseph. And I think of those 3, I think P.O. Joseph might be the guy. Chad Ruhwedel, if a team is looking for, like a 7th defenseman, Chad Ruhwedel would be very appealing just because he has been in that role before where he can sit for long periods of time and then come in for a couple of games to be effective. So if a team needs a 7th defenseman, I think that's a case where you actually would lose, Ruhwedel. And then same with Mark Friedman. And Mark Friedman also is very good on the left and the right side, and he's younger. So I think it would be risky to lose Mark Friedman. P.O. Joseph, he only has, I think 20 total games of NHL experience. So I don't know.
Not much, yeah.
I mean, he obviously is very young, so that could be appealing to, a rebuilding team that, they could, like a team like in Arizona could give him the shot. Arizona is not even an NHL team. They're not playing in an NHL. It's just like for different minor league teams.
Oh, how embarrassing.
Yeah, they could. So that could be risky too. I think something that might help Joseph's ability to pass through waivers and go to Wilkes-Barre is that he can only play on the left side, unlike like Mark Friedman. So Joseph, he had never played on the left in juniors, and then his whole time in Wilkes-Barre, the only time they tried him on the right was one game this past season. Didn't even last the whole game. They put him right back on the left. So any team that would be putting in a claim would have to have an opening for him at the NHL level on the left side. So that really narrows down the teams that could potentially claim him. So that's still a big risk though. But so, if they, put Zohorna, Kajula, Joseph on waivers, send them down, and including, O'Connor and Ty Smith, that would give them a 22-man roster, which is fine. So 1 extra forward, 1 extra defenseman, and $133,000 of cap space. So they could go into the season that way. That's like definitely not ideal though, to only have that's not enough to call anyone up. And if someone, if they have guys on IR and they need to call someone up, regular IR does not open up cap relief. It only provides a roster spot, and only a long-term IR open gives cap relief. So ideally, you'd go in with at least enough cap room to call up one player. So that makes me think that probably a trade is still the most likely option here. Maybe move out someone like a Pettersson or a Dumoulin, but Dumoulin makes $4 million, Pettersson just over $4 million.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you do that, then you can keep P.O. Joseph in the NHL. You don't have to make that risk. Or you look at some of the forward options. I don't know if I'd move Jason Zucker. I think I want to keep him and give. If he can just stay healthy, he can be an effective player. And you know, I asked like Hextall at the draft. He seemed encouraged with where Zucker's health is at right now. He's not going to need surgery in the offseason, he told me, and he's making a lot of progress. It was like a core muscle issue again with him last season. Brock McGinn maybe would be an option just because he is a guy who's, you know, like overpaid.
Just a touch.
Yeah, like just over like $3 million. I believe 2.75. Yeah, so just right around 3 million. They have depth forwards, a bunch of them. Maybe one of them could probably do what McGinn does from a keeper. So I still think Marcus Pettersson's going to be your best bet here. It makes sense to move out a defenseman, I think. And I know Dumoulin is someone, like I mentioned, he's someone that maybe, you know, people are talking about too. I think something with him though, he's in the final year of his contract. He's turning 31 in September. You look at the teams that have a lot of cap space. They're the rebuilding teams, you know, like in Arizona or Buffalo. I don't know if they'd want to trade for Brian Dumoulin, knowing that he's not going to be a long-term option.
Yeah.
He's not part of the rebuild. Marcus Pettersson, he's young enough. He's 26 years old. $4 million cap hit, not that unreasonable for him. And
no, it's not.
And he's young enough that a team like Arizona could theoretically see him as a long-term option as part of their rebuild. And another thing is Brian Dumoulin does have a modified no-trade clause that allows him to submit a 10-team no-trade list. So you think of like the bad teams that have the cap space, you know, Chicago, Buffalo, you know, Arizona. Brian Dumoulin could just put those teams on his no-trade list, and then he's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Why would he want to go to like Chicago if he doesn't have to? But Marcus Pettersson, no trade protection this year. So he has 3 years left on his contract. This year, no trade protection. But in the final 2 years of his contract, he has an 8-team no-trade list. So if he's going to be moved, now
it's got to be now. Yeah.
Probably do it. It's not impossible to move a guy with an 18 no-trade list, but in like the flat cap, it would be a whole lot harder after this year. So
yeah.
My final verdict. Send down Kajula, Zahorna, and then trade Marcus Pettersson, and then keep, you know, maybe P.O. Joseph or Ty Smith in that final defense spot, and you know, and then Drew O'Connor. Then I don't know what you do with Drew O'Connor. I think you might still have to something just so he has somewhere to play, even if you can fit him in cap wise. He needs somewhere to play. So. Yeah, I mean, they got a couple months to figure this stuff out, but
luckily, yeah, because they're in kind of a tough spot, and they do have time, but it's not ideal. Hopefully, one way or the other, they'll have to figure it out because they can't go into the season not cap compliant and with too many men. So either way, it's going to work out, but it will be interesting to see what happens if Marcus Pettersson's still on the team, if he ends up somewhere else, if they keep certain guys up. It will be very fascinating to watch, but let's take one more break and we'll be right back. And we are back. So formerly known as Heinz Field is not the only stadium in Pittsburgh that has made some upgrades and edits. for this coming season, PPG Paints Arena has also announced that they are making upgrades and improvements. Taylor, what can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I talked with Kevin Acklin. He's their president of business operations, and I just asked him that, what's coming. So he told me about a couple of things and changes that are coming because, under Fenway, and then they hired Oakview Group to manage PPG Paints Arena. So new ownership management, they're looking at a bunch of different things. He didn't have an answer for how much of this would be ready for the start of the season yet. That's still like an active discussion, but he did say that it seems like some things are going to happen this off season. Some things they have the opportunity to do as the season is ongoing. He did mention, like October, they only have 3 home games. So that gives them a little bit of wiggle room to add stuff during October. And then some stuff might have to wait till, next summer too. But a couple things happening. The biggest ones are a new video board. And and then so I've been talking about this for a while, but the ability to project like video and effects onto the ice. So like what you see Vegas doing, they're really good with it. That's something that they're going to be adding. New like LED lights around, but the on ice projections are like the biggest thing, and that's just where all new buildings have that now. And you're seeing also a lot of buildings that are much older than PPG have already made those conversions. The Flyers, the Capitals, and the Lightning, those 3 buildings were built in the mid-90s, and they have it. So this is kind of just catching up to where things are going. But, you see all those teams do really cool pregame, like, intro stuff, like the effects. The Flyers have, like, Gritty skate out and act like he's breaking the ice, and then it shatters and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But beyond that, it's really cool for, like, just, like, the fan experience. I know something like the Lightning do. During, like, intermissions, they'll project, like, the shot maps from, like, the previous period, so you can, like, visualize that, and that's really cool. Acklin did also mention, like what the Lightning did during the Stanley Cup final. If people didn't see, they opened their building for the games that were in Colorado. And so like they showed the game, like the video on the video board, but then they also like used tracking technology to project like little, player icons like onto the ice. So it's like you could watch onto the ice in front of you, like a projection of the game being played.
It's so wild. Yeah.
So he did mention the Lightning is a team that, that's kind of like what they're looking to go for. So those are the things I think fans, are going to care about the most. He mentioned other they're looking at a bunch of things for like premium seating, so like maybe more clubs in the arena. A new bunker suite, which is if you like look to the left of the Penguins bench, there's like a super premium area. That's the suite 66. It just they have like access to like a lower clubber. So they're talking about like maybe adding another one of those. And in season, the people are like worried about like ticket prices. I saw when I wrote this, but they went through. Ticket prices in a lot of cases were lowered for going into next season. Like Fenway, they're very big on like analytics, beyond just like hockey operations, but like with everything, like business. And they did like go through and use something with analytics to look at every individual seat. In a lot of cases, seats prices were lowered.
I'm a season ticket holder, and my prices went down by like $20 a ticket.
Oh wow!
Like crazy. It was wild. Not expecting it, but they definitely made it more affordable for most people to attend games, which is exciting because looking at the state of the team, we're on the back end of the Crosby, Malkin, Letang era, and they're trying to get people to games as much as they can, and the fact that they were able to lower prices and also upgrade the arena the way that they're doing is exciting because it's making hockey more accessible to people.
Yeah, unless like the season ticket holders, people buying tickets, are not footing the bill for like
Yeah, exactly.
all these like projections. That's totally independent from that. And like you said,
Yeah.
ticket prices actually went down in a lot of cases. So
Yeah, it's exciting, and it's just a lot of fun. It makes hockey fun. And another fun thing, it was Evgeni Malkin's birthday, 36th birthday this past week, and you tweeted pictures of his cake, which iconic, just simply iconic. It's a Lion King cake. Rafiki is holding up a fourth Stanley Cup.
yeah,
Incredible.
on top of Pride Rock, yeah, there are 3 behind him, and Rafiki has another one. I don't know. Is that manifesting, foreshadowing?
Here's hoping.
Fourth cup, but crazy cake. I mean,
it's so elaborate.
Yeah, and like you look at like, honestly, confession, I don't think I've ever seen The Lion King. At least not like it's done really well.
The detail, yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then like you look in like the background, like on the TV, where you can see that they have like Spotify going, and it's like playing the soundtrack. And then
yes, it is. Oh my goodness.
I think it's like "Can You Feel the Love Tonight" and that. But then
that's it.
His Anna, his wife Anna, did post a video of like the cake being wheeled in, and like people are trailing with like sparklers, but like they're playing Circle of Life, and like Malkin's like fist pumping for it. Honestly, when I saw that, I was like, is this maybe like Nikita's cake? Because Nikita was born in the summer, but this was on Malkin's like actual birthday. So I don't know if it could have been like a joint party or whatever, but this was Malkin's birthday cake. But yeah, like the soundtrack, but then you see like in the videos too, like there are like Lion King balloons everywhere. And Malkin had posted on his Instagram story, he had drawn like one of the Lion King characters, and like I don't know what he wrote under it. It was in Russian, but so this was a whole Lion King themed birthday.
Very elaborate. They went all out.
Yeah,
I did not notice the actual soundtrack playing. That's next level.
So this is going to air on the 4th, so 3 days before Sidney Crosby's birthday. Which Disney movie is he going to go with?
Oh, that's
like Lion King and Malkin makes too much sense, because you see he has like pictures of him like with real life lions in like Russia before. He's a big animal guy. He would wear like this little, he wears like the penguin hat now that says Gino, but he used to wear like the lion one. Which Crosby?
Dang. For some reason, the first 2 that popped into my mind were Hercules and, for whatever reason, Hunchback of Notre Dame. Don't know why. But I just feel like there's something about Sid's personality that makes me feel like he would really appreciate the plot of that and the music in it. I don't know.
Hercules does make sense. I could see him being big into Hercules. I'm trying to think of like, I know he's big into like World War II era stuff and like history. I don't think there's like a Disney movie that comes to mind that's like based in that era. But I don't know. Hercules, Little Mermaid popped into my head. I don't know why.
Okay.
Not for any particular reason, but I don't know. I guess we'll have to see what Disney movie he chooses for his birthday theme. Yeah. I don't. What if Nathan McKinnon hasn't had the Stanley Cup yet? What if he chooses August 7th? What if he gets it on the 7th? You know, and they have a little joint party, McKinnon's Cup party and Crosby's birthday party.
Oh my God, they'll both be drunk for like a week. Yeah,
McKinnon did say he was the drunkest guy at Sid's Cup party, so he wants Crosby to be drunk at his. I can't imagine. Yeah. I guess at that kind of level, but I don't know. Very excited to see what happens on August 7th.
Oh my God, me too. You just never know. With Sid, you never know.
Truly.
What a treat. Oh my God. Well, everybody, thank you for listening. We drop new episodes of Podcast on Fifth Ave every Thursday, so make sure you're subscribed, whether it's on our YouTube channel or wherever it is you listen to podcasts, so that you never miss an episode. We will see you next week.